Exmoor has got some amazing wildlife and also some incredibly well-informed naturalists and ecologists. Now the aim of our discovery sessions, our training days, is really to enable members of the public to work alongside, to get more involved with these experts, to build up their skills, but also to build up the knowledge of the wildlife we have here in the national park. Within that, we have a particular focus on species ID, surveying and reporting the data. In terms of the programme we've had now over 25 training sessions this year and same number last year. And I guess the first thing really is you do have to start a long way in advance with planning these things to make sure you get everything lined up. In terms of the species that we've thought about and the surveying we've thought about, I guess first of all we looked at what the priorities were, we looked at our planning, our management plans, we looked at what the key species were, and then really it's about fitting that with appropriate tutors and thinking of what tutors were available to support these sessions. I mean, these sessions have had all shapes and sizes. We've had 2-hour ones, we've had full day ones, and basically we've broken them into a number of different categories. At the beginning of it, I think an important part to say is we've had Exmoor Wild Watch. Now Exmoor Wild Watch is our species ID. So we've had 12 species which we've asked people to identify and report when they've been travelling around or moving around the national parks. So we've included things like kestrels, kingfishers, hare, hedgehogs, and I think by people reporting that has been a good first step, and certainly some people who have done that reporting have then moved on to our next level. We call our next level discovery sessions. So these are days which people have to turn up to and book onto, but there's no particular expectation they're going to do any surveying afterwards. So for example, we've got one on wildflowers where people come up and have a half-day workshop on wildflowers, ID wildflowers using hand lenses, all that sort of thing. And yeah, we'd love it if people give us their records, what they find out, but really that's just an introductory session into the other opportunities which exist. The next session really, the next step after we've had those discovery sessions is what I personally call our sort of rent-a-mob training and survey days. So these are days when people can turn up for a 2-hour session, but then go out as a group and survey. So we've done things such as nightjars, heath fritillary butterflies, different types of butterflies, which means people have had some information, but then they're very supported going out on that day and doing the survey on that day, and then it's almost like job done. I mean, they can just put aside that time to get involved. So all they've got, that's great, it's been valuable, they've learned stuff, but then they can move on. I guess the next step really is our perhaps our more intensive survey days, where we've asked people to turn up and they've had a day of training, but then they've done surveying right across the summer, or normally it's across the summer. So an example of that, of course, is the crayfish training, where people have the opportunity to turn up. They've done a training day on identification, and then they've done a second training day on control and surveying, but they've done that with some of the best crayfish brains or some of the best ecologists in that area in the country, and then that's a lot of input, but then we work with them over the summer. Those volunteers give up 2 days a week quite often to come out and survey alongside National Park staff or South West Water staff or Environment Agency staff. So that again is more intensive, but there's more input from everyone, but there's certainly a lot more output. And then probably the final type of training that we've done is almost like independent surveying. So people have come along and we've done training on, for example, veteran trees, we've done otter training, we've done butterfly training, and people come along, we give them a session on identification. People normally take an area, we give them maps, And then they go along and they do that identification themselves and then report back. They may be on their own or they work in a pair, but all of the training days we've done, this is probably the most challenging. We find the most challenging.
Hello, my name is Tony Jones. I live in Minehead. I'm a volunteer with Exmoor National Park. I've worked on various projects associated with the park, such as big adventure days that involve families coming along to experience various activities relating to Exmoor. One particular project that I've been involved with that's been really good, I think, is the crayfish project. That's involved really looking to see whether the River Barle has American signal crayfish. This is an invasive species of crayfish that causes a considerable amount of damage to the river. And the project that took place last year involved finding out actually where these creatures were on the river. It was really extremely interesting, a great opportunity to get to know the river, a great opportunity to get to know the staff of Exmoor National Park, and also to meet various members of the community. So we liaised closely with riparian owners, landowners, and worked closely with people from the Environment Agency as well as with the staff from Exmoor National Park. It was fascinating to find out exactly where these creatures were, and also to be involved in a project that in many respects is going to be extremely worthwhile and will hopefully lay the basis for future work in terms of looking to see how, if at all, these creatures can be controlled.
Hi, my name's Ollie. I moved down to Devon in October, and over the last 6-7 months I've been volunteering with Exmoor National Park. I've been doing lots of different things, from fungi identification, big adventure days, and sort of like lots of active conservation. I've recently joined to do the crayfish survey, and the training has been really good, really interesting. In the future, I've got signed up to do hedgehog surveying, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing my first hedgehog. I've also done multiple different things. It's been really, really interesting, and I've loved every day that I've volunteered on Exmoor. It's been amazing.
I'm Ali Hawkins, and I'm the Wildlife Conservation Officer with Exmoor National Park Authority. Exmoor has got some fantastic, pristine rivers and streams, most of which are recognised nationally as sites of special scientific interest. That's mainly because they've been unspoilt and they support a range of very characteristic species: salmon, kingfisher, dippers, bullheads. We're really working to try and keep them in the pristine condition, but they're very much being threatened by some non-native invasive species. So in some of our rivers and streams, such as the Barle, we've got signal crayfish, and we have a number of non-native plants such as knotweed and Himalayan balsam. So we're really working to try and solve the problems of these invasive species, and we've got some really well organised training courses which are helping people to learn more about these species and become involved in helping to manage them on our watercourses.
My name's Maura Angus, and I'm employed by South West Water to work on the Exmoor Myers project. Part of the project we run volunteer days looking at plant surveys, so people get to find out about them either through their previous involvement in the project or on our Facebook site or through the National Park website. And we run 2 vegetation training days at the beginning of the year. So that's a basic vegetation training day and a more advanced training day, and it allows people, volunteers, to get involved in the project and find out about all the moorland species that they'll be looking at when they come out and do the survey work for us. And then once they've done the training days, they come out and do the plant surveys for us, and that's basically from about May to sort of September. Come out about 2-3 days a week, and it's just a great opportunity to be out on the moorland looking at the plant species and also collecting a great amount of data for us so that we can find out at the end whether our peatland restoration has been successful or not, and the plant communities are changing. But it's just a really, really great day out on the moor.
Hi, I'm Mary Rose Lane. I work for the Environment Agency, and we're working closely with Exmoor National Park on the training workshops for the Exmoor Signal Crayfish project. So we've been involved in this training workshop with the National Park. We couldn't have done it without Exmoor National Park Authority. We've really relied on the National Park's ability to pull in volunteers to advertise and promote what we're trying to do as a partnership for the River Barle. The Environment Agency, we can bring our time and our expertise with Nikki Green, the independent consultant, to help bring that technical expertise into this project, but we really needed that local continuity and that local contact with people who live and work on Exmoor to bring in the people that this project needs. And the project is fundamentally going to succeed because of the volunteers. We couldn't do it without them. We didn't really want to do it without volunteers, and it's the sort of project that will build up steam and enthusiasm and generate more interest because of the volunteers who are involved, and that's really what the National Park has been able to.
In terms of the actual delivery of the training workshops, there's a number of things to think about. First of all, like I say, plan well in advance. Most of our workshops are planned 6 months to 18 months in advance. There are opportunities that come along, but it just makes it easier if you've got that advanced planning. There's things you need to think about in terms of balance across the year, balance across the national park in terms of geography, different skill levels. Like I said, we've got a range of different courses. And then you've got some logistics. You need to think about, obviously, kit. Some of the courses require kit. You need to get that sorted. Venues. We've been very fortunate that all our venues were donated in kind, which has been really positive. We'll think about the support needs of the tutors. Sometimes our tutors are very good at what they do, but they aren't naturally trainers, so sometimes a bit of hand-holding is needed there. And sometimes they've only done work with their own wildlife society. So sometimes you need to think about issues such as insurance as well. Whose insurance are they working under? And I think something else we probably didn't quite imagine was the amount of sort of mapping and materials that we needed to give people, and working issues such as land ownership and access. So that's all taken some time to think through. When you actually come to deliver it, I guess promotion is important. All our courses have been oversubscribed, which has been really good. Some are literally booked up within 24 hours. They are free, but our costs are minimal, and also we are getting an awful lot of surveying and skills out of getting people involved. And of course, we're very grateful to the funding we've had from the National Park and the lottery enabling us to do this. So yes, the promotion, we had a bespoke leaflet. The materials are online. We get people to book online. There is a telephone number if that's a challenge. But by booking online, that also means that we get things such as insurance is covered, so people are signing up to our insurance, our code of conduct, and it also gets them into the National Park family, so to speak. Helps getting them involved in lots of different ways. And once people signed up, we then can send them an update and a reminder before the event. And because people know the course of demand, because people get sent updates, we really have really good rates of people turning up. We have very few people that don't turn up, and when they don't turn up, we generally know why. They've kindly said they're under the weather or something. So what's worked well? Well, it's been a really good opportunity to bring perhaps previously some ad hoc training, some training, that wildlife training that was going on, into a more recognisable package. I think that's worked well for the National Park team. I think that's worked well for other partners, and I think it's worked well for the wider public as well, and certainly that's been the feedback. So enables us to reflect a bit more on what we were doing and the input for the output, so to speak. It's also, I think, worked well in terms of differentiation, the different steps, the ladder of participation, if you want to call it, going from the Wild Watch Species ID to discovery sessions, right up to the more independent surveying. So I think that's worked really well. The I think the mechanics have worked well. I think in terms of the booking system, that's been positive. And I think just getting people, getting perhaps the wildlife societies more involved, or another opportunity to get involved in the national park work, I think it's been really great. And I think almost more equity is clearly that we're all in this together, we're partners. They've got skills and talents that we haven't got, and there's areas that the national park have got that can bring other people on board. So I think that has all been really positive. So what have we learned? What's gone less well? Well, I guess we certainly learned a good amount in the first year. I think firstly we learned that you do need clarity in the offer. When people come, people come with different expectations, so you do need to be clear in what the session is offering, whether it's a discovery session or a more advanced session. We had people, especially in that first year, coming to a discovery session and wanting it to be more advanced, and then we had people come into a survey training day but not realising there was an expectation or a hope or an intention that they would be able to undertake some surveying. So clarity there, that's one thing. I think also the training workshops around independent surveying, we've struggled where we were expecting people to go off and do their own surveying. Some have worked, veteran tree survey, for example, otter survey, but others were more challenging, such as the butterfly one, and I think that was to do with perhaps we didn't have enough hand-holding support available at the time. And I guess another thing that we learned was, making sure there is a clear next step for people as well, if they want there to be a next step. So don't just upskill people and leave them floundering. Make sure you clearly know how you're going to get them involved if they're up for it. The things that we might do differently in the future, I think one issue to think about is public transport. We are here, in a wonderful setting, but just by coming sometimes to a wonderful setting like this, you do sometimes alienate some people in terms of transport. So probably one thing for us to think about is if we can have the training day in a more urban environment, for example somewhere like Minehead, then let's give it a go. Let's see, because some of the training days would work in a more urban environment. And the other thing is just thinking through, I guess it's probably always worth being aware of the support some of the wildlife societies and natural history groups are pleased to have, really, and just making sure that you've got capacity to be supportive in there, because they're going to be here long after the project, and we've worked with them, but I always felt and always feel that we could do more. They did some incredibly valuable work. I was always sorry that I didn't have more time or resources to do more work with them. But in conclusion, the training days and the discovery workshops have been hugely successful. It's been extremely rewarding to see new people come through the Wildwatch Species ID and get really involved in the more complex identification, and also to have the wildlife societies getting involved, becoming really active, or have an opportunity to get active in a different way with what we're doing here in the National Park and with other partners such as the National Trust. So all in all, very positive all round.